Hello, folks. This is Miguel from Embargo Man, right? So, the last thing I was washing up is the Miss Universe contestant or pageant, waiting for the moment when it will be the day that Steve Harvey screws up again. I mean, on the day that Steve Harvey screws up again, I remember that back in 2015. I was in Colombia, and then I could remember Steve Harvey screwing up for Miss Universe, right? I mean, this is like, I guess, to what would be to the extent of Steve Harvey screwing up again. With Steve Harvey was screwing up again, it is to say that Steve Harvey, you know him, Steve Harvey screws up again, and when she did this, when he did this, Steve Harvey said that Miss Colombia won Miss Universe, but actually it was the Philippines. And then people was like mad at Steve Harvey. And then I noticed about all this, Steve Harvey screwing up. That's the first time he screws up, all right? So, for all that matter, now the day that Steve Harvey screws up again, I was waiting for that moment to see Japan and Korea as the latest two contestants and say that Steve Harvey says that Japan wins and actually Korea wins, right? But for this year, India wins, all right? So Miss India win. There was no Japan-Korea finalist, and I was thinking that if this would be to be considering that, even Tony Morano would say about Steve Harvey is right video, right? Why do I mention Steve Harvey is right video, right? So what it is about when the day is gonna happen, the day that Steve Harvey screws up again, it would be the day that one of the Miss Universe contestants live in another, one that represents Japan and one that represents Korea. I don't know when Korea is gonna unite, but then there would be it may be the contestant might be born in Korea, live in San Andres Island, and she lived in San Andres Island in one time. And they were talking about the Laincourt Rock issue. Put in the Laincourt Rock issue because of Miss Korea, when could be 2022 or 2023, I don't know, says, oh yeah, I lived in San Andres Islands at one time, and she said about living in San Andres Island, and she's comparing Japan with Nicaragua. And then this the Laincourt Rock, they toss in the Laincourt Rock situation. And then with the Laincourt Rock situation, it would be, the answer is okay. She's like putting a metaphor comparing Japan with Nicaragua and Laincourt. That is, and it is like saying Dokdo and Takashima. Dokdo and Takashima around there. And then when Steve Harvey screws up again, and then he says the winner is Japan, and if it's not Japan, it is Korea, then what was going to happen is this. What's going to happen is that when Steve Harvey screws up, Steve Harvey would gain fame in Japan, and people in Korea will be screwing up. and then and then what would happen is Steve Harvey gains fame in Japan for screwing up, saying that Miss Japan won, that actually is Miss Korea. Then I mean, he's gonna be more popular in Japan and like infamous in Korea for saying that kind of stuff, right? So all this encountered is the day that Steve Harvey screws up again. Then you have Tony Morano saying about about Steve Harvey's right, and then I'm talking about Steve Harvey being right, and the made of story of Steve Harvey's right that this universe is fixed, and that Japan is the real winner or something like that, and Korea won by a decision. Then I mean, this would be a whole freaking mess about all this stuff. All right, so I mean, the suddenly Steve Harvey screwing up again is a possibility. It is a possibility if he did this when Philippines won and he announced Colombia. Like, it seems that nobody has give a damn, right? But when the day Korea wins in Japan is announced like a runner up or something like that, then like he announced that Japan win, that actually if Korea wins but he says Japan, then he's gonna be very popular in Japan. Tony Morano's gonna make a video about that stuff, about that crap. And what was going on is mayhem. They were talking about, oh, Steve Harvey was right. He announced Japan, but actually Korea won. I mean, that is what's going on. And with the confusion, they toss around Laincourt Rocks, the metaphor of putting that Japan is being Nicaragua and Miss Korea living in San Andres Islands, passing the Laincourt Rocks with Takashima and Dokdo. That's it. So that's what be the toss about. Then in that order, it is about Squid Game. Seasons 2 of Squid Game, right? So I seen Alice in Wonderland. I mean, Alice in Borderland. It's like one of my Netflix shows, Alice in Borderland. Then what was going on is that back in the 1970s and 1980s, all right, so the person or this character that they're gonna talk about is it's gonna be a white dude, right? But what was gonna happen is his last name is gonna have a van in his last name or something like that. So what's going on in there, that he's gonna make an entree, a $15,000 entree. So if he is the chef, something like that, and he works for a popular electronics company. I mean, it's a European dude, but he's gonna work for an electronics company. It's gonna be or in other words, the guy has his last name Van on his last name. Gonna have Van in his last name. What's going on with this guy? He's gonna get paid 50 cents to make a $15,000 entree. So he is saying that he went to culinary school and all that stuff, but he has a job for a big electronics company, and what it is about exploiting workers, underpaying, about cheap labor. I mean, this is what it is about cheap labor back in the 1980s and 1970s in Korea, when this used to be cheap labor, right? So the guy is gonna get paid 50 cents for a $15,000 entree, or what is all his earnings and all that stuff and whatnot. It was donated or paid by, he's gonna like saying this is what it is. They tell you about this a website or something like that. He returns to his country talking about a website, getting paid 50 cents to make a $15,000 entree. And I don't know, he's gonna be dead or something like that, but all the investment and all the money goes and about some dude in Africa selling a Rolex, actually a fake Rolex. Like he was trying to sell a fake Rolex that said that this is real, and the watch is fake. So no, so he lost all his money, or what it is about his money. He lost everything to some scammer. All right, that means that this is what he gets for ripping people off. Get ripped off by a scammer. They said about this, but the guy enters in the Squid Game competition, probably gets died, probably died or something like that, or I don't know what's gonna get. He's gonna get ripped off. I'm saying of how people back in the day used to like exploitation or whatever it is. I mean, when I seen about this, about what it is, appreciate, or I mean the people's gonna, his punishment is he's getting himself ripped off for ripping people off working for a big corporation, right? So it is like, how it is back in the day, right? It's like this guy is he's getting paid 50 cents to make a $15,000 entree. So I mean, it's gonna be like what it is about season two, right? So it's an interesting one that like so, because at the first one is about this dude who is betting on horses and stuff. This is like the first season. But second season is this character that you have. I mean, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to see some dude doing a $15,000 entree to get paid 50 cents. I mean, for what? Because they will say about manipulating and exploitation, ripping off you, because it takes place in Korea. Like the dude is some it because his last probably he'll be a Dutch dude that he works for a big electronics company, exploitation, using cheap labor to make this stuff in South Korea so he could gain benefits. So that means that he gained benefits. He want to do this, but then at the end, he gets out. He get ripped off. They pay him like 50 cents to make a $15,000 entree and whatever it is. Probably, I don't know what's going on. He has no sense to win that money, but he gets ripped off or whatever, and then I mean, I don't know what's going to be with that, but I mean, this is very interesting. This is like life lessons to say what's going to be this, to not to don't rip off people, or like say don't exploit people. I mean, I already seen this and saying a YouTube video, some dude going to Indonesia and see the Nike workers getting paid like crap, but put in this way, it would be interesting to have a life lesson learned from some Netflix show coming from South Korea, that probably this guy enters these types of games and he is out of the retirement money, or the retirement money is gone gone to just give it away to some, I mean, somewhere, some African scammer or something like that, or whatever, or something, and gets paid 50 cents for a $15,000 entree, and like he goes empty handed, and says you didn't appreciate what you got, and this is what you get paid for, whatever it is. But then, after all, I mean, I would say one thing about it. One thing about it, about all this, about, when people screw up, when Steve Harvey screw ups. I mean, what is it for? You want to toss Laincourt Rocks and compare? I mean, this is it. This is all the dilemma comes into display. Or what do you think about a new character? What is in season 2? Because they already have an Indian character, and they're gonna have this time a white dude, right? Who works for a very big electronics firm. Maybe you might know them. Maybe you have their shavers or something like that. That he gets that he gets paid 50 cents to make an entree. I mean, a $15 entree. For what is his punishment? He gets paid back to exploiting people, getting paid less, like back in the 1980s and 1970s, and then that's that, because his last name, he's gonna have banned in his last name. So, and write me any comment, and what do you think about that? I'm like, what do you think about the lesson in a Netflix show about not to exploit people and paid like and paid trash money to, to rip people off to make stuff in a high price? So write me a comment, and see you in the next video on Embargo Man. Goodbye, folks.